Hello and welcome to episode 62 of the 10 Million in 10 Years podcast. I'm David and I'm joined by Michael Karabassis. Welcome along.
Hey, g'day mate, what's happening?
Mate, it's good to have you on the show.
I'm pretty excited to be here.
You were just saying, first podcast ever.
First podcast ever. Hey look, I'm nervous, be gentle on me.
I will, mate, I will. So tell me about that. We were just talking a little bit before about podcasting and content in general. You mentioned that you haven't been on one and that but you'd thought about maybe creating one at some point?
Yeah, well, I always had that thought that if I was ever to go into podcasting or anything like that, I kind of like the full show of it. You know, I feel like if you're going to do it, you need to do it for a bigger purpose. It needs to help people. It needs to be for a greater good, not just yourself, but can kind of be something people can learn from. And I feel like I like both mediums, which is the video and the audio. So I feel like if I was going to do it, I'd probably do it in that YouTube setting, make it so it's quite marketable, it's cut up into small nice pieces that you can use for extra little posts here and there. But I think it's one of those ones where I've got a little brain. I like to really be focused on the small things at a time that I like doing.
Right.
So I find right now the biggest focus for me is the business world.
Yes.
And my hobbies.
Yeah.
You know, I'm fortunate at having a plethora of both of those. So I'm able to kind of focus there, but then when I look at it as a whole, I go, right, I think this is one of those small rocks, you know, big rocks and small rocks.
Yes.
Small rocks is one of those ones that I'd love to be in the video podcast world at some stage.
Yes.
I just don't know what platform that's going to look like.
Yeah. Do you think if you had someone to help with that journey, you'd be more inclined to do it?
I think so. That might be part of the problem. You know, I think with every person, and this comes down to a large part of any person's happiness and successful journey. I think it's getting out there and asking people, right, I want to go down your road.
Yeah.
Can you help in some way? Because I don't think enough people ask for help and also admit their failings or their insecurities or their lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to show like they actually know something when they don't.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, even just asking. But I think maybe that's even an indicator, right? If you've got some trepidation about asking, maybe that's a sign you should do it.
100%.
Right.
100%. I think it's probably that next phase of our journey. You know, we've tried giving back a lot. My business partner and I, Carl. Carl and I have done a lot of kind of individual work on with people. People call us all the time and say, hey, like, we want to learn about property, or, you know, it might be my side, the finance and business side, and Carl's side, the property side. And it's interesting looking at over the years the probably hundreds of people we've sat down with, we've met, we've sat one-on-one with, actually showing them how it all works. And there's probably less than a handful that have done anything with that knowledge.
Yeah, right.
And, you know, I look at that and that's frustrating because you put in a lot of time into one-on-one.
Yes.
So maybe the answer is the mass demographic actually going out there and putting things on video and breaking it down maybe more intelligently is the reason that people haven't done enough with it, because we aren't good enough at showing how we do it.
Or
I'd like to think not, because I think I'm awesome, but...
Or do you think that the people that you're referring to, do you think they want the outcome and not actually the process of what it takes to get to where you are?
100%. Oh, look, we can open a massive can of worms on this one.
I'm happy to.
This is my favourite subject on earth. So many people want the result, not the work.
Absolutely.
And, you know, while that's really simple, everyone's heard that a million times. One of the best ways I've ever heard about being, being results driven or being process driven, it's kind of thinking about when somebody gets given a home, or, you know, we talked about news articles before. When you see in a news article, someone's like, oh, you know, rich kids got given a deposit for their house, or, you know, there's always these gifts given out, or people have had a bit of a leg up. The hardest part that so many people want is that they want the free handout. They're not asking for the ability to do it themselves. It really frustrates me that more people aren't going, well, they got given $100,000 deposit towards their $1 million first home, or $500,000 first home, or whatever the number is. Instead, they're not asking themselves, well, how can I be able to buy a $500,000 home or $1 million home? How can I start my own business instead of inheriting one? You know, asking about the journey, like, that's the result you want.
Yes.
But do you want the result of owning the business, or do you want the free handout of it?
Yeah.
You know, that's, you know, you took steps to get to where you are here by taking action and setting up your own personal goals and journey. You didn't ask for the end result.
No, that's right.
You started this podcast probably with no one listening and hoped someone would.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it wasn't about it was the process. It was the fact of
100%.
documenting it and wanting to have a record of something to look back on in years to come. When or not when on my challenge, particularly, I'll be able to look back and see where I was at that time.
100%.
It wasn't about downloads or monetization, it was about the process.
But downloads and monetization is a great metric, and it's also a great way for us to understand the word success.
Yes.
When we look at the success of anything we do, the greatest conversations on earth aren't actually fighting two arguments on a specific topic. Usually we're actually arguing the meaning of a word. So when you say success, someone goes, well, I don't define success as success by happiness, another person might be success as money. You start getting down to a definition of words, which is every argument on earth.
Right.
You think about gender equality,
Yes.
talking about males versus females, they, them, you all get down to this conversation, which is how do you define male or define female? That's where every conversation seems to end or argument. It's quite a weird subject to get into, but
That is weird.
so on the note of your podcast, tell me, why did you pick 10 million in 10 years? Because I like the specificity of it,
Yes.
but I'd love to hear why those two numbers, the 10 years and the 10 million.
Yeah, so I turned 38 and...
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh,
So that was 2 years ago. So I've recently turned 40.
Congratulations again.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I often reflect when it comes to my birthday, and I reflect on where I'm at, where I've come from, where I'm going.
Nice.
And when I turned 38, I guess I had a lot of gratitude for the life to that point and the experiences and what I've done and what I've learned along the way. But I wanted to create a larger asset base, a larger base of asset, so that by the time I got to 48 or 50, around that point,
Yes.
I was just in a different position. So I just thought 10 years was a meaningful amount of time that was big enough to grow something, to build something. And then 10 million, I figured it just had a good ring to it.
Nice.
Yeah, it wasn't, overly
Not bigger,
calculated.
not smaller.
It's a good point.
And what I like building into this, because I think part of our conversation today is probably going to be around about our journeys along this way.
Yeah.
And it's understanding when you're doing this, which is a bit of a 10-year plan. Then 10 years is a large chunk of someone's life to give up on a journey.
Yes.
So why the 10 years, and then why only, or why such a high, depending on people's point of view.
Absolutely.
Number.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and I recorded 3 episodes recently with a guest, and so the first one's out now. So Aaron Grant, I think you might know him.
Yes.
It was a really interesting chat, and I met him through a friend of a friend, and we just got talking about the challenge. Right? He's like, okay, let's dig deeper on this, right? For someone that has reached that point, and so we spent half a day recording episodes, and it was just the most amazing time, right?
Yes.
Having perspective from someone that's actually reached that versus someone that wants to be there or has a presupposition on what it would be like, massively different. 2 different things.
100%.
Yeah, the weight that conversation carried versus the speculative, night and day. Absolutely night and day.
And I think that's probably a little bit of where I come from in a conversation between us, is sitting there going, right, it feels like when you talk about the numbers and time frame, I love the positivity, I love the energy, I love the journey that anyone can get on. I feel like people as a whole set themselves reachable limits continuously, and they don't dare to dream, whereas people like myself, I suppose, are probably heavy dreamers. I like dreaming excessively. The old saying of, aim for the moon, and even if you miss, you land amongst the stars.
Yeah.
But I do like that kind of attitude, and I look at it and I go, well, you need to be specific and you need to have actions along the way. I remember when my business partner and I started doing property together, we joke about, look, I'll admit, every day of the week that the reason for any of my success in the last few years, whatever you want to call it, is a really happy relationship with both my business partner, who's my best mate, and also my partner at home. I think those 2 things become pretty key to it.
Critical,
But when we started together, he was like, look, 2 things. I don't want to be a slumlord.
Right.
Lol. And I want about 150 grand passive income.
Right.
And I was like, okay, calm down, buddy. Like, that's not going to even wake us up each morning.
Right.
We need to set our sights higher to be able to fall back at some stage. As you grow the business, as you start going through the up and down moments of any personal journey inside your goals, inside your attitude, you're probably going to need to be higher to fall back to where you settle. Where everything settles. And I found with us, we're definitely still on this massive journey, which is exciting. But I put that back to yourself, which is when you look at that number, if you put 10 million, are you happy if it hits 7 and it takes 15 years? Is that, or is it the process of it?
It's absolutely the process.
What happens at 10 mil?
Yeah.
That's probably my favourite question is, at 10 mil, do you stop? Do you die? Do you give up? Are you on a beach in Italy?
Well, and this is, and there might be a bit of jumping around today, but I find it very interesting, the people that have reached a certain level of comfort, we'll say, right? Either net wealth or residual income or whatever. What interests me is what keeps them going, right?
100%.
Because I know a few people that are in that point, and a lot of people do stop at that point, right? And so you could probably, you're probably at that point where you just keep on going, right? And back to that story with Carl, right? So
we do okay. We're pretty happy with. We mix two things, which I appreciate Carl and I's attitude towards. We are growth orientated. This is a process business where we don't really have an overarching kind of goal and idea, but I think more of it's a lifestyle goal.
Yes.
What it looks like. My business partner is he loves cars, homes, and my job is to give him the ability to be able to do that whenever he wants, however he wants. And if I can do that for him, I know I'll end up okay. And vice versa, he's just like, if I just keep putting things in the tank, Michael's led me this way, we've teamed up and it's going all right. If I just keep doing my part, the process will end up okay. And I think that journey of both of us enjoying it along the way, and he's really good with me of saying, calm down, we need to enjoy some of these things.
Right.
We went out and bought a couple of cars a few years ago. I was like, how do we celebrate? Because we didn't touch any of the money, we didn't touch anything, we just lived off our former jobs, and we'd grown into a decent sized business. And I was like, what, do you just want some money? Do you want to do this and that? He goes, well, I've always wanted a Ferrari.
Right.
And I was like, I really liked that attitude, because I was like, oh shit, I didn't think we would ever really, spend that kind of money on doing that kind of stuff. So I said, all right, well, you like Ferrari, I like a Lambo. Just trying to figure out how we can buy these cars as part of our journey.
Yes.
And so we fortunately were in a better position than we thought.
Yeah.
And we took a bit of a journey where within a few months we were searching for the cars, and by the time we kind of found the cars, we were in a position to buy the cars. And I like that he kind of engaged me to actually think about the journey along the way, rather than my mindset, which is I'm always thinking about the future and never really putting it in today.
Gotcha. Yeah. Gotcha.
And it is, it's one of those ones where I look at, we tried retiring, in the smallest mindset of the word. We thought, the market's crazy. There's an age-old, if you talk to a lot of old property investors, and look, it's not like a typical businessman. We have our peaks and troughs in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
We are the richest people on earth for short periods of time, and then the most depressed people on earth for periods of time. Not probably as bad as a developer.
No.
But we thought one year, we were like, right, money in the bank, lots of passive income coming in, feeling really good, market's gone crazy. Let's go fishing in a way. So we thought we'd go play golf and just enjoy ourselves. The second week into playing golf most days, I still remember we were at Clearwater, we were on, I think it was hole 10.
Right.
And I literally was like, I was holding on, I was crossing the water over the sandbar. And I looked at Carl and went, is this it? And he goes, I know, I'm so bored. And I thought, oh, how good. We both understand now that was our moment, that we weren't looking for the ability to do whatever we wanted to do. We were fortunate enough that we bought quite aggressively, we had good returns, we were able to do that to our limited means. I'm not saying we weren't like anything ridiculous, but we're in a position where we were getting paid every week for, without having to wake up tapas.
Yes.
And so we thought, no, let's build this and let's continue building this, because what we actually get enjoyment out of is, me running around stressed out trying to find finance for the things that Carl keeps bringing to the table.
Yes.
He's an amazing property searcher.
Yeah.
So whenever he's out there buying or selling, he's just like, right, I found something really awesome. And I'm like, oh God, I'm going to try and solve this problem now. But then I get a kick from that.
There's something in that, right?
100%.
We gain value or a good feeling from struggle, right?
Yes.
From the hard things.
Well, it is really interesting you say that, because we talk about James Wallace, the man, the myth, the legend. He is, I admire him so much, because me and him have been friends for a number of years. He cold called me when he used to work for MediaWorks.
Right.
He remembered my my coffee order, my banana smoothie with a shot of coffee in it.
Oh, how good! What a combo!
Yeah, so delicious, so delicious. He remembered that every time we caught up. And I was so impressed with, at the time, a kid, just being he had such strong business acumen, he was so pushing to something greater. And when he eventually figured out what it was, which was Digital Simple, to his own marketing company, he did it on his own with a great number of people around him to support him, a great team of staff around him. But he doesn't have a true running mate bouncing board. He has those of us as our friends and all sorts of mentors around him. But it's very hard as a loan operator to have someone who shares your bank account, seeing the pain, actually seeing the sales process and believe in you the same way. So I really admire those that do it the solo journey, but I still think there is no greater ability to succeed than teaming up with people. It goes horrifically wrong a lot of the time.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, it's certainly not all harmonious, right? Like I've had a few partnerships myself, and it's like that selection of partner is so critical. And like you mentioned before, the quality of your personal relationship and your business partner relationship is such a key reason for your success,
100%.
quote unquote, right?
Yeah.
And do you think that's because you got lucky with Carl, or do you think that was more intentional, the choice to partner with Carl? Or tell me about that.
Well, to me it was intentional. I was sitting on the plane and I was reading this book, Manny Koshbin's Contrarian Playbook. He's a commercial property kind of investor developer in America.
He's got a shitload of cars, right?
Shitload of cars. And a man after my own heart, our own heart. And so it's a very small book. It's not a large book. I read it on the plane ride over. And I remember just thinking about, I'd been a mortgage broker for years. I'd helped heaps of people buy property. I'd done a few deals myself, but I wasn't really a property guy. I was always really excited in the business and finance world.
Yep.
When I was younger, I thought I'd be on Wall Street.
Yeah.
With that kind of attitude. And I just kind of really twisted their mindset. Like, I know what this cheeky bugger's doing. I think I can get involved in this. So I thought to myself, right, I need to do this for myself. I've got the connections, I've got the ability to do this. But I feel like it needs to be a journey with someone, because the one thing I'm lacking, in the many areas of things I'm lacking, is the real passion for any one thing.
Right.
Like I call myself always that entrepreneur, that businessman,
Yes.
by that mindset of I'm looking for stuff all the time that I want to multiply and develop.
Yes.
But I needed somebody who had kind of that pigeon-eyed, pigeonholed success energy into just one thing.
Yes.
That mind, that focus into something. And I knew one person who was just obsessed with property, been going to open homes since he was like 14, 15, dragging his parents around open homes when he couldn't buy a house,
Yeah, right.
just because he loved property.
Right.
And when I got back, I asked Carl to have coffee, and I was like, here's my idea, we can buy property for free. I can show you these kids, we do this, we do this. And he was like, no. He was like, no, mate, like I'm going to do this on my own. And I was like, okay, well, if you want to do it,
I'm here.
I'm here.
Yeah.
And he went home and had a chat to his partner at the time, and he said to me, he called me back about a week later and goes, all right, let's try one, and that's the start of it. One to many more.
Right.
So far so good.
And how did you guys meet originally?
Okay, another funny story. Him and his then partner at the time. I used to be a mortgage broker. Previously, for what I do now was for myself, but prior to that I started with a company called Lifetime. And I think that one of the greatest things you can ever do is be a little bit nice to everybody, be social, actually give out and you get it back. So one of the ways I tried to do that was when I went to Lifetime, I made sure that anyone and everyone, you had good interactions with. So that way, if business came in, selfishly, I could get it.
Totally.
Or they knew who to talk to. So this couple had walked in the door and they'd asked for a financial advisor voucher. And, if you know, financial advisors are free. So there is no such thing as a financial advisor voucher. But the girl on reception was like, I don't even know where to begin. So she just looked in and walked in and just came straight to me and was like, can you help some people? They're really confused.
Right.
And I was like, no worries. So I came through and it turned out to be Carl and his partner at the time.
Right.
And we met Carl and I were like fireworks. And he just loved property. We just chatting the world away. He really wanted to grow his portfolio. He already had a few at the time.
Yeah.
And turned into, having the girls around for dinner and becoming good mates. We're catching up a lot, and then we joked about starting a property company together, kind of over the few drinks over the years.
Yeah.
And then it kind of led to eventually it actually starting.
Wow.
Yeah. Very, very common interests.
Yes.
Very different way about going about our business.
Right.
I liken that to even my relationship with my partner George. Georgia, she is the most amazing human on earth. But it's funny how much she and Carl are similar. Both of them are quite quiet, but will be extroverted with a couple of drinks in their system.
Yes.
They keep themselves. They like to rein me in, which is probably what I need.
Right.
But that common idea goal of where you want to reach and what you want to end up to be needs to be harmonious between you as a couple.
Absolutely.
And for Carl and I, and for Georgia and I, but for Carl and I, and it means the world that we both want success with passiveness. We aren't jumping ship to be like, oh man, we could actually do this weird deal over here. We could screw someone over and we could make 20 grand, 50 grand, 100, whatever the number is. Neither of us want to do that. We want to be the good guys, the nice guys, because we enjoy doing it. And if we lose a deal, it's not really that. We've probably missed out on a lot because we don't really want to fight for it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because those people exist, right? The ones that are the opposite of that mindset.
Oh, look, I've heard rumours they exist.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
I've heard rumours. That's unfortunate that some people choose to go that road, but unfortunately, money is the green-eyed monster.
Yeah.
Mixed with some people don't know any better. I implore them, and I'm excited by them doing it their way, whatever they need to do to, get to their levels of happiness, and hopefully they sleep like a baby at night.
Yeah.
Look, I have no doubt, probably like yourself, that one day we're all 60, we'll be sitting around a balcony somewhere having a whiskey together. No one's really going to care what the journey was to get there, as long as everybody's kind of alive and healthy.
Interesting. So it raises another point. I've really noticed this a lot lately with the guests that I've had on the podcast and just conversations in general, just around the people that you have in your circle, have in your network, and what level that plays into life's happiness, success, the direction that you're heading in, right? Mm-hmm. So you mentioned your relationship with your business partner and your fiance. What about other people in your life? How critical are you of that and intentional?
It's a great question. I'm a little bit worse than most. I am a heavy extrovert. I do love humans. I collect them like Pokemon cards. I really enjoy meeting people. I love hearing people's journeys.
Yes.
I don't, someone's negative outlook on a day, someone's unhappiness, somebody's success, they should all be absorbed and taken care of and be looked at. I'm really happy to meet anyone and everyone, and it has no reflection on me. People have said, I'm quite positive. No one's shit can get me down.
Right.
Their stuff doesn't really bear any weight on me.
Right.
But it is things that I like to hear them, because some people just want to talk.
For sure.
One of my new really good friends, we're at poker night, all a few drinks, and he was telling me a story. He's had incredible success overseas, telling me all this a great journey of his life, his addiction to drugs, his addiction to sex and women and all these things. And he said afterwards, we've connected massively. After he goes, you were the only one that looked me in the eyes, was paying attention through all of my depressing chat.
Right.
And I was amazed by it all. You were so open.
I was interested. Yeah.
I was interested.
It was a hell of a story.
Hell of a story.
Yeah.
And I believe that massively. That I love, to bring it back slightly to topic. I bring I love meeting anyone and everyone, and I like taking the little bits of learnings I can get from each and every person. But honestly, my group, Carl and my partner, Georgia and Carl have really taught me to bring it down to and tell me that those people that are, I suppose, really wanting to see you, really caring about you, need your valuable time. When you show up to an event, say hi to your mates and then bugger off, like you start peacocking round. I've definitely been one to do that. I try to make sure I get a little bit of everybody. My job is always to make sure everyone else has a good time, because my good time is making sure everyone else has a good time.
Right, got it.
So I typically, and someone might be like, they actually just wanted to talk to you. I was like, I'm not good at that, but I'm getting better.
Yeah.
But one thing that was really, really nice is we talked about James Wallace, and James' good friend Garrick, the Superman, handsome man.
The big fella.
The big fella. Jeez, that guy scares me.
He's a monster.
He's just an absolute monster. I just, we once had to share a bed. I chose to, but again, he had to. But during the middle of the night, I think his leg kind of came and touched the side of me, and I couldn't move. It was such a big night.
It restricted you.
Such a big guy. I was just crushed for the rest of the night. I woke up not breathing. Something else was in my mouth. I don't know why. But no, it was Garrick, James, Jimmy Ward, who you've had on this before as well. Fun fact about Jimmy, he's actually only 5'2", but he wears platforms in his shoes.
What?
No, I'm kidding. We're actually the same height. I don't believe it for a second, but we're roughly the same height. Roughly the same height. But honestly, that guy and all of those friends, we have breakfast, and another group of friends, we all have breakfast every Friday.
Really?
Because you'll call people to talk about life. We didn't want it to be about drinking all the time.
Right.
I think too often people are saying they're friends with people, but they're drinking buddies.
It's really true.
Yeah. People that we have deep meaningfuls on the piss, we talk about each other's success, and we might even be putting people back in the background or whatever people do. But when you actually sit there sober over a breakfast and it's banter as well as sometimes like, oh man, I'm just getting beaten up this week.
Right.
And your mates can just be like, right, what do you need? How can I help? Is there anything you need? Or just ask enough questions that you build yourself out of your journey.
Yeah, love it.
And I think those guys have been key to a lot of my happiness along the way, even though we're massively, in a way, different stages.
Right.
But as a whole, without them, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Very cool.
All the way through to my family and everything like that.
I love that.
And then there's the, as you say, the satellite friends. I imagine you've got them too. A few people there that are sort of satellite friends that are pretty much in your close group. You don't get to see them as often. They're still very important.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, right? I think there's so many different layers and levels of friendship and relationships, and I think for myself personally, I'm going through a bit of an evolution at the moment. I'm going through a stage of curating a little bit more carefully the ones that, not to say that drinking friends are a specific type, but I guess a couple of years ago I just found that that was the case. There was people that I spent time with that there wasn't really a good reason to spend time with other than the fact that it was you'd go a few beers, right?
Yeah, you saw them purely for a drink catch up.
And that was the common link. Yeah, and I guess at the time it was all good, but then it's like, okay, that's cool. That was a stage, that was a season of life. And I think for me, I've really noticed that with spending time with different people, different perspective, and this podcast is really a part of that, is, I think with humans, we do love and get a lot out of conversation and people. And I've found that the more that you have diversity in that mix, the more you can learn. And
100%.
Yeah, that's something that I've really noticed.
Do you find you're gravitating towards a particular group of people that are interested in something? What's the, if you think about the people you're meeting, do they share something in common? It could be their particular job description, it could be a mindset.
I think growth is one commonality. I think curiosity would be another. One thing that's not they're generally either older or younger than me. That's something that I've noticed, which is weird.
Older or younger, not the same.
Yeah, and that's quite a weird observation.
What's the spectrum of older and younger? Because if you're talking to 60-year-olds and 18-year-olds, there's a problem. There's a problem.
No, that is the case.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, literally. Like, so like some of these guys from the gym, they're 19 years old and they're starting businesses and they're doing stuff, and it's awesome.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It's incredible, man. Like, these guys are just, university dropouts, and they've been like, I want to start a business.
Are you a man of education? Are you degreed?
I am not degreed. I attempted to degree, and
my friend,
it wasn't not for me.
Yeah, no, it's a great place to have some fun, university.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was I just did it because all my school friends did it, which wasn't the right thing to do in hindsight, but live and learn, I suppose.
So to get to the point where you're at now, what is your journey on this? And I bring it back, and maybe other people who have listened to this have heard, but to be the person that kind of follows his friends into university, and then to now be a 40-year-old man chasing 10 million in 10 years, what was the point that defined your mindset change? Was it a certain person? Was it a moment?
It's a really good question. I think if I were to look over the last 20 years of that journey, I think probably one point was my coming back to New Zealand from Canada. So I lived in Canada for 8 years, came back here in 2015, I think it was, and that was probably a defining moment. That was when I stopped being, I've always been curious and I've always been entrepreneurial, but I think that was when I really found my own identity and started to back myself, and that was probably the moment.
Well, that's probably it. The answer to it for most people. What is the key to it? Or backing yourself. There is no exact route to success.
No.
They do say inconsistency is the only route to failure. Being consistent will eventually lead you somewhere. But as a whole, if you actually just back yourself, you can pick yourself up when things go down because you're on your journey, you believe in yourself. I do believe there needs to be a little bit of, confidence and arrogance is a beautifully skirted conversation. To one person's confidence is another person's arrogance.
Absolutely.
But I think you can deliver both well. You're allowed to, actually, funny on that conversation, I was talking about this with Carl yesterday, just playing sport, because our great love is to compete in pretty much every sport we play together, and I'd say very annoyingly he beats me in pretty much everything.
Does it?
Just enough, like we're pretty much matched, but he ends up the winner. Like he's very, and I said this to him yesterday, I said it's phenomenal that he's 5 years older than me.
Right.
He's 39, I'm 34, and I look at his trajectory on being he was always a cricketer, he's played a bit of sports here and there, but everything he seems to pick up, he still commits to with passion, he's very driven to succeed in the sporting environment as well as in the business world, his home life, all those things. I really admire that. And I said it's quite funny because he is a man of very few words, but when he does speak, he's usually angry at something in the sporting environment.
Right. Because
he'll say a comment about something, so you kind of think it's about you, or you get scared, and you're like, oh no, did I do something wrong? But he's actually just angry at himself, his own personal journey on the thing.
Right.
Whereas when my only thing that I seem to beat a few people in, which is go-karting.
Oh yeah.
And I really enjoy go-karting, but my favourite game to go-karting is talking shit the whole way there. Because honestly, most races I come second to another one of my best mates, James Hotman.
Right.
He's just a phenomenal in a go-kart. And everyone's excuse, he's a slightly bigger lad than me especially. Everyone's like, everything's about weight or blah blah. I'm like, no, man, this guy's out driving all of us.
Right.
But I love talking shit the whole way there. I'm practicing my standing on the top podium before we go. I'm limbering up. I'm telling people to, make sure they remember what the back of my go-kart looks like. All those things. And at the end, I think the most important part is if you're going to be that kind of vocal arrogance or put on a show for people, you are the most humble in defeat. And that's my favourite, I suppose, ism of my own, which is I love watching people succeed. Their failure shouldn't be at my success.
No.
100%.
No.
But it is funny with the chats with Carl. Is like Carl's like he's not He doesn't talk about it in an angry way of you, and he's just angry at himself. He's actually really happy for you, and I like that. But he doesn't talk about any big game beforehand. He doesn't give you any psyched up stuff, which actually sucks you up even more. Because you're real scared. You're like, oh god, he's going to beat me. He's just silently achieving. And I'm like, damn it.
Different psychology.
I don't know how to be a silent achiever. You know,
you can't do it.
I can't do it. His mouth is made for talking.
Yeah. There you go.
100%. So tell me, you've got a wee book down there on the table.
Yeah.
The PPL, the
yes.
pilot's license. So you're learning to do it as well?
Yeah, so I started when I was about 19 actually. It was in the final year of high school. I did a trial flight. And I had always wanted
That was a part of high school?
I think it was, yeah. I think it was like a extracurricular type thing.
Which school did you go to?
St Andrews.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, only rich schools keep flying as a hobby.
I know. Don't judge me. Don't judge me.
I don't judge, man. That's amazing. I wish.
No, I was very lucky, and my dad, he was always into aircraft aviation. Loved it. He couldn't get his license because of his eyesight.
Colorblind?
No, just a visual problem, vision. It actually got corrected by laser, which is amazing.
Yeah.
How
laser.
An 80-year-old can get like lasered and go from needing glasses to no glasses.
Wow.
Isn't that mind blowing?
It is. It's the best money you will ever spend. I want to be a sales rep for laser vision.
Wow.
Because honestly, getting mine done, I was only just off. I was about a 1.5 and I could see close. It was the far distance was just a little fuzzy, and I actually thought I was fine vision. That's how just off it was.
Right.
And then I went and got it done. The most painless, fast operation of your life. You're wearing your normal clothes. You just lie back.
Wow.
And it's literally like, look at the light, done.
Really?
It's a simple thing on it.
Wow.
And so then I ended up talking both Georgia into getting it, friend Casey as well, Garrett's partner, and a couple of other friends have all gone down the road of getting it.
This is hilarious. So my girlfriend Emily basically needs it, but has concerns and
honestly, best thing you'll ever. I mean, this is again probably a deep conversation, but it is just all about understanding that all the money you spend on things in life. Yes. Spend it on your health, get yourself operating well.
Totally agree.
I know phenomenally rich people that just, maybe they're afraid and that's still fine, but they just won't even go get laser, or they're still wearing glasses, they're doing all these things. I'm like, honestly, just fix the problem.
Totally.
Go back to operating.
Absolutely.
You have a slight weakness in you now. You can correct it. It's not even it's a one afternoon.
This is a bit of a sensitive subject, but I had surgery last year in December for an issue, and it was elective, so I had to pay out of pocket, and it was about 13-14 grand. So it was, for me, that's chunky. It's chunky, it's not 100, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I totally feel your passion, right? Like, the best money I've spent, probably.
100%.
And therefore, I just encourage, and maybe I'm a bit like you, I just become so, what's that word? Evangelist? I become an evangelist for spending money on things like that matter, right?
Well, the people listening might say something like, well, it's easy to think that when you've got money to spend. It's 6,900. I think it's whatever it was, 3.8 per eye.
Right.
I think it's a little bit more now, but it's roughly about the same. The point is $50 aside, $20 aside, get yourself to a point where you never have to buy another pair of prescription glasses and contacts. Do all that for as long as you can. Yes, it's nice if you get things done immediately.
Yes.
Some people unfortunately can't get their eyes lasered, and that's a sad truth of it. Their eyes are constantly changing. But if it's health orientated, you don't need a new iPhone.
No. And this is where the conversation gets interesting, is that a lot of people, say to me like, "Shit, that's a lot of money." Like, I'm like, well, yeah, and for me, it kind of is. Like, it's not like, Anyway, so
but the penis enlargement worked. So
the point is, it was a choice, right? Like, it was a really conscious choice to spend that money, and maybe make some sacrifices in other areas, right?
100%, and I suppose we'll bring that back to the PPL side.
Yeah,
it would one of the most beautiful parts of the internal journey of getting your eyesight back is looking out at things clearly and crisply. You don't actually understand how amazing and what that does to your brain. It triggers a happiness, it triggers a calmness, it triggers all these parts of you, the serotonins in you that make you just feel like your day is going to be better.
Wicked.
You know, and I'm fortunate we live on the hill,
Yeah.
and when I look out each day, I'm just like, wow,
Yes.
that blows my mind now, because I used to see it,
Right.
but not like I see it now.
Wow.
And you know, as you say, I'm proud that you're getting back into your PPL stuff.
Yes.
You know, what's the what's the reason you're going to do it again now? Small rock turned into a big rock, or
Yeah, there's a few things. So one is a few comments, or like what was the one thing actually? There was just something relating to doing the hard thing, right? Like doing something that's really difficult and then succeeding at that one thing. And so like, for me, the theoretical exams are that challenge for me. I love the flying. The flying's great.
Yeah.
I don't find the flying difficult. It's the fact of like knuckling down and studying.
100%.
And so I think that it's one of those things that if I am to persevere, it'll have massive dividends, both from the enjoyment of flying, but also like the satisfaction of doing it.
Oh, 100%, man. We all need an internal journey outside of the normal routine. You know, flying, I imagine for yourself, is probably a little bit pointless. It's in the form of like, it doesn't have anything to do with your career. It doesn't have anything to do with your friendships.
That's
it doesn't
right.
have anything to do with the relationship.
Yes.
It's purely for you.
Yes.
That's the reason I do it.
Yeah.
It is the most amazing feeling on earth to have something that's mine. You
Yes.
know, it's not for anyone else, and I look forward to the moment I can use it for my friends and family and my business. But you know, that moment that you first go up in the air by yourself,
it's incredible.
It's the most incredible moment.
Absolutely incredible.
Of anything. And then when you're allowed to, like the other day I flew to Kaikoura by myself, flew around all through the hills and then came back, and then the next time I went down to Timaru, and then I was flying along and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go fly over Akaroa. That'll be quite cool. So
it's kind of nuts, right?
It's insane.
Isn't it nuts when you think about that? Like the fact that, you know, I've flown solo. Maybe.
Some idiot let this idiot.
I know.
It's hilarious.
I know. It just blows my mind.
Yeah. So what was that?
Just flying in general. How that's just an insane experience. I was going to go somewhere with that.
Oh, sorry.
It's gone.
I'm good breaking it.
It's all right.
No, but it is. It's one of those feelings that, you know, we get in a plane, we achieve these kind of internal successes. And for me, when I was like, right, I'm going to do this, my partner George, actually, she was the one that went, right, I want a hobby, I want something outside of work and things, I'm going to pick up flying. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. And I went on her introductory flight with her.
Yeah.
And so when I went with her to do that, I was like, this is pretty cool. But I said, you know what, this is her thing, I'm obviously not going to touch it. And then after, I think it was a couple of months, she could really only go once a week, and if the weather came through on a Saturday, and if the weather came through, well, she's like, I just can't continue it, you know, I'm showing up, and they're like, I'll go refuel the plane, and she's like, I don't know how to do that, because like she hadn't got enough lessons, or there were too many gaps in the lessons. That were, you know, it's something you need to commit to quite fully. So I said, oh look, I'm really willing to do it, and I'm going to do it. And I've done it twice a week, basically every week for a year.
Yeah, right.
I've had a couple of gaps here and there, Christmas holidays, and weather can sometimes stop you.
Yeah.
But 50 hours for your license. I'm at about 65 now. I feel fairly confident in a plane. I have my license test in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And it still blows my mind every time I go jump in that thing that I know what the buttons do now.
Yeah.
You know, I can actually look at this thing and go, right, and you know, this is that subject we were talking about the other day. The feeling of being able to achieve something that isn't what you thought you could ever do.
Yeah.
You know, I never thought I'd actually be able to fly a plane as much as I thought, I could fly a plane.
Yeah.
You know, there are so many elements of it. It's like, right, I can get in this thing, I can start in the correct sequence. I know the issues of, you know, part of training is you cut the engine and you have to try and get yourself back down to the ground. All these things, and you don't even panic anymore. You just feel so calm, being blown around in turbulence in a tiny little aircraft.
Yes. Yeah, it's amazing. I think, you know, and going back to the people that you spend time with, like you absolutely have influenced me to get back into it. You know, like just, you know, when we caught up, what's that?
Great to hear.
Just when we caught up, you know, recently, it was like, okay, cool, all right, this is, you know, it's a factor, right? It's a factor when I hear that you're doing it. It's like, okay, cool. And then, you know, I think serendipity plays a role sometimes in life. And I think, you know, it was hearing that, it was going for a flight again recently-ish with my friend Matt, who's funny story, my original flight instructor
Yeah.
from when I was 19,
Wow.
we've been friends all this time, right?
What does he do now?
So he did go down the commercial pilot route. He was in the airlines for years and then moved to Nelson. What is he doing now? He's back with the airlines now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Very different career as a pilot.
Oh, sorry, no, he's in the air hospital.
Oh, wow.
What do you call it? Flying doctors, yeah.
A genuinely good person.
He's a good sort, yeah. He's a legend. He's a full legend.
That's so nice.
Yeah, and so all these events sort of lead me to getting the books and then getting back into it. So, yeah.
Fantastic.
I've got one exam down and, was it 6 or 7 to go?
Six all up.
6 all up, so
So you've got
5
5 to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you do commit, I say this to, anybody listening, whatever you do, get obsessed about things in short periods and get yourself immersed. I think getting a new passion, getting a new hobby, getting obsessed in a business idea, doing it in too small a part won't allow it to actually take a hold of your life.
Yeah.
You want, it's like exercise or it's like
Yes.
anything. You need to genuinely get part of that routine built into your system. And each time I found, once I learned how to study for each of the exams, I realised that I only needed 2 or 3 weeks between each one.
Right.
So I could just set an exam. I would start reading the course material and figure out how long the book actually was or what I was reading.
Right.
And I was like, right, I've got a time frame now. So I think I'll be done about this date. And then I've got basically 2 weeks of practice exams and some additional reading.
Yeah.
So basically every 3 weeks I could do one, whenever I started.
Yes.
So then you could just go, right, I set the exam and then just work towards that achievement.
Yeah,
And
cool.
that means each night you come home, you just do a bit of reading. My process was I just read the whole book first,
Right.
all the stuff, and then started doing practice exams and filtering bits. Read with, some notes taking along the
Make
way.
notes, yeah.
But typically I would either read the whole thing, then read it again with notes,
Yes.
or I would just read it and start doing the practice exams, especially the waypoints, paid for ones. They have the whole thing. There's a multi-choice, so it's not brain surgery. You don't have to write a thesis on each one.
No, but yet the subject matter is relatively dry.
Well, you've
Especially
gone
some
for
of
a
them.
very difficult one. Whether to fly, Met. It's the most enjoyable one, but my God, you really want to know a bit more about flying, I would think, before you get into Met,
The air law one I attempted to pass last. So I got human factors and I thought, all right, air law, whatever it is, I'll take this one off next. Failed it, basically.
Yes.
Just tried to learn it off the practice exams. Didn't work. But fuck, man, it's so boring, that one.
Yeah, air law's one win on your mind is it's matter of fact. There's not theory behind it. It's hard to do. It's basically like, at what height can you fly over a built-up area? Here's the number.
A lot of facts.
Yeah, there's just facts in there, so you've got to retain a lot of that. I think you got to get a 70% pass, and then you've got to do knowledge defect write-ups on all the ones you failed.
Yeah.
So I always figured I'm aiming to get in the 90s because aiming to get 100, stretches you out.
Yeah.
So I was like, I want to get a really high mark, but I know that I'm going to get a couple wrong. How many can I get wrong? And just try to go through the motions, because then I know that afterwards I can do some extra learnings to keep myself get to where I need to do to pass all this.
For sure.
And I found that mindset meant I went in a bit calmer.
Yes.
Rather than, I was never a studier. I'm the same as you. I went to university to do a marketing degree, did 2 years, and was like, nope. I'm not coming out with the same degree as all these people.
Yeah.
And then I went back and studied accounting full time while I worked full time. So I was working kind of 60, 70 hours a week, then coming home and doing till midnight every night, doing an accounting degree.
Really?
Yeah, until I joined the bank and I was now a business manager in the bank. I had 1 semester left to go with 3 papers. So 3 papers left of my 3-year degree. And I was like, nah, I'm done. I couldn't study.
Really?
My mind couldn't do it.
Interesting.
I was exhausted, but also I was on 6 figures in the bank. The typical employed world. I felt comfortable. I felt happy.
Yes.
My bigger journey was not going to be by finishing a degree. I was never going to become an accountant.
Right. Yes.
I just thought the knowledge I built from within it would be able to, multiply out in the real world.
Interesting.
So
the process and the information was more valuable than the actual outcome or the set degree in this instance.
I believe that heavily.
Yeah.
In so many areas of life. I think that's why people wanting outcomes
Yes.
isn't the correct way. You've got to remember the process along the way, which is, I suppose, a little bit about the flying stuff as well. You've got to enjoy the study of it because you want to learn it, not just doing it to pass the exam.
Yeah, and that's a radically different concept, right? Like learning about the weather, learning the curriculum for the exam is so much different than being interested and curious about being safe when you're flying. Right?
100%.
Yeah.
Well, you look at the story of success, you look at the story of making money, how many people are meeting mentors, how many people are meeting anyone and reading things and listening to podcasts for the result of what they want. They're not actually thinking about the lesson. We successfully helped some friends of ours. They were kind of they were a client of mine as a mortgage broker, and then the very rare chance I went out there one late night in Rolleston, and the husband and wife, after all my conversation about rental property, all the ways to build it and buy it, and at this time we already had a few, he said, he goes, right, Michael, this has all been great, but what would you do if you were us? And I was like, well, that's a really tough question because I'm a slight, on the spectrum type fella. I don't really have the same emotional range. I know what I need to do.
Yeah.
So I was like, he was like, no, be real honest. And I really appreciate that. So right, I'd sell this bloody home of yours.
Yeah.
And I would start getting into investment property, go rent somewhere that meets your needs, but that's cheaper.
Yes.
And then, just put your money into buying property. You have to make a sacrifice for a few years to get ahead.
Right.
You have to dig deep, And he's like, all right. And I was like, okay, cool. So he calls me a week later. He's like, right, house is on the market. It's going to auction soon, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And he was like, what do I do then? I was like, well, okay, call me when it sells, and then we can figure out what you're working with. So, all right, call me when it sells. We got back basically the same as we paid, but I got some money now, whatever it was.
Right.
He's like, what do we do now? And I was like, well, now you need to find some property. He goes, can you guys help? We're like, yep. So we helped them buy a bunch of resis and a commercial building, and we helped them go through motions. I can't remember how many they have, 4 or 5 now, 3 or 4 or 5, something like that.
Yeah.
And we helped them buy a few, and they just basically bought kind of, I don't want to use the term through us, but like they bought what we told them to buy.
Right.
They were existing houses, things like that. We just said, look, this is a really good deal. Here's why. They're basically 9-10% yields. They were none of this new build type stuff. It was all proper stuff. Here's where the equity is. You're going to get it 20% under. You're going to get a really good return.
Right.
The metric of how they could basically refinance, get all their money back, and go again. The same thing we do.
Right.
So we were helping them do this, and then after this amount of properties, he calls me a bit later on. Like he's had a bit of quiet time in the middle there for a bit, and then he calls me and goes, right, we've got these properties, things have been feeling good, we've got the commercial leases and other things. He's like, what's next? And I said to him, I was like, mate, I've got to have a hard conversation with you now. I said, the conversation now is we have shown you the journey. We've led the horse to water.
Yes.
We need you to have known now, after all these transactions, all the things we've been talking to you, telling you about, of why you're actually doing this.
Yes.
I think the journey along the way is the learning points. You need the passion, you need the idea of why you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get all of that done, actually understand how each step is taken, then you'll get to eventually be at the water to take a drink. And if you sit there trying to go, right, I just want someone to give me something. Now that might be a really smart business plan. He just calls some people, they give him a great property, he buys on. That's fine. But I think in general, the key to the success I've seen through most people is they understand why they're doing it.
Yes.
They formulate their own plans.
Yeah.
They generate their own inquiry. They generate their sales and buying, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And they understand. You look at some of the greatest developers around in our city at the moment, and businessmen. I love the Williams boys. People love to give them a lot of flack. I think those guys are just the most amazing at what they've done.
I agree.
Purely on a lot of bases. One, they have unbreakable confidence about their journey.
Yeah.
My favourite chat is whenever someone says, I wouldn't do what they do, or I wouldn't build what they build. Well, you couldn't. You wouldn't. They wouldn't do what you're doing.
Yeah.
Relax yourself.
No, it's incredible.
It's phenomenal.
I was at their office on Wednesday, actually. So funny story, right? So I don't know if you
tell me.
noticed. I don't think we're on Instagram together, but I had a.
I don't have Instagram.
Oh, you don't? Well, there you go. There's my answer.
Yes.
So my dad, so he's 88, right?
Yes.
And so this is when I wasn't drinking, and he's like, oh, here's a pack of beer for you. I'm like, oh, I don't drink, Dad. He's like, just have them anyway. Doesn't listen, right? I'm like, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And so I get the beers back here, and I'm like, all right, what do I do with these beers? Like, why don't I try to trade them? So
Interesting.
So I was like, I could trade these for something and trade up, like that red paperclip story. So I put it out on Instagram, and out of all my followers, there's only 1,000, so there's not like that many, but
that's a decent number.
Out of all of them, Blair from Williams Corp hit me up. He's like, hey, I'd be keen on those beers. I've got a UE Boom speaker. You want to do a trade? And I'm like, yeah, shit, yeah. I'll be right there. Because he lives just around the corner, right?
I see his house.
And so I hadn't met him at that point. We'd been connected on Instagram and messaged a little bit.
Let's just slow this down.
Okay.
6 beers or 12 pack?
24 pack.
24
pack Heineken.
Heineken.
Yeah.
For a UE Boom.
Yeah.
Oh, so far, so good. You are a hustler indeed.
So there's a number of factors here, right? There's the
Yes.
whole elastic value part of the equation. Meaning,
he just wants the beers. And he's willing to pay
the
them.
UE Boom speaker is redundant to him. He's not using it. It's
Yes.
sitting around. So although the retail
Very
value of that may be, say, 100 to 150,
Yep.
beers are around 50. It's immaterial, right?
Agreed.
So I go around there and we do a deal, right? And that was that part of the equation. I ended up trading the speaker for an iPhone to restaurant vouchers, and then eventually cashing them out. But the same thing happened recently. I was back on the coast. Dad's like, here's some beers for you. I'm like, still not drinking, Dad. Doesn't care, right?
That's hilarious.
Get the beers back here.
Yeah, well, you got rid of them last time, so wherever they went, do that again.
Exactly. And then, so I had the beers back here, and then a friend of mine, Andrew Farrow, who I think you know.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he doesn't mind a
Absolute
beer or two, right? Absolute legend. So this is when I was drinking. Beers were sitting. He's like,
he traded you for a replica McLaren, didn't he?
he's like, should we have some beers? I'm like, yeah, let's have a beer. Beer box got opened, so that destroyed the trading value of the beers, right? You can't trade a 17 Heinekens, can you?
Are you drinking at this point? In the story?
At this point I was,
Yes.
yeah. But then I decided to do 75 hard again,
Nice.
went off the beers are in the fridge. Blair's moving house, hits me up again. He's like, hey man, have you still got that second pack of Heinekens?
Yeah.
I've got something for you. I've got a pair of wireless headphones and wondering if you want to trade. I'm like, well, Blair, I've got 17 Heinekens. How's that sound? He's like, yeah, sweet, I'm moving out, so I don't really want them. Like, less is more, right? I'm like, well, I don't want to just take the headphones, so why don't I just take them into your office and, you guys will drink them there. So that's what we did.
Oh, fantastic.
So I ended up with the headphones, the picnic blanket, and the Silent Crusaders book.
Oh, wow.
Funny story, right?
So, that's a mixture of two parts. One, you putting yourself out there, and somebody receiving it. I think people forget that a lot. It's right place, right time, and doing something about it. And I think that's probably a heavy part of that story, which is you don't know what can happen until you try. The amount of people, and you didn't know Blair.
No.
Blair are fantastically successful, exciting, actually quiet of the two of him and his business partner characters.
Yeah.
This guy messages you out of the blue to want to do a deal.
And where I was going with that whole thing about the followers and the people that saw that and ended up reaching out, like arguably Blair's probably one of the higher net wealth of all my followers, right? And yet he's the one that's like up for a deal and willing to be creative and like have a bit of fun, right?
Oh, just great, lads.
Like, isn't that cool? It's just so funny.
Oh, honestly, and I think it's a testament to them, but also I think it sings true of that old charm, which is just that people with money accentuates the person you are. I've known Blair and Matt. Matt first, he came to I used to throw when I was in a full relationship back in the early days, a party at my house every year for like a Halloween party.
Right.
So kind of usually where people would donate a little bit of money, would go to charity, that type of thing, and we just have this event. It's my little house, first home in Woolston. Everyone bring $10 or $20.
Right.
And I'd spend some money on getting bits and bobs. So my ex at the time, she had a friend who was dating a new guy. now this just shows Matt Horncastle's usual swag is, I think she was 24 and he was 19 or something, so he's good at his game. And she brings a man named Matt to the thing, and he is dressed as the Mask, full green face paint, yellow suit, the most amazing thing. And she was Carrie from the scary movies with blood in her hair, wedding dress. It was incredible. Gave them the best dressed awards. And I just thought, this guy's. Once I knew his last name, I knew Horncastle Homes back then. He was, he was a bit of a builder working for them at the time, and beginning his journey.
Yes.
But he already had that eye for it, and he already had that passion for delivering in a setting. To be able to dress like that and put effort into a random Halloween party is a whole mindset.
Yes.
And then subsequently, a couple of not long later, probably at Les Mills, mixed with knowing Matt, I met Blair, and they kind of. As they self-proclaimed, they weren't really mates through high school, but I think they went to high school together, and then afterwards became much more closer through the business journey. And Blair was always just, such a nice guy. We still go these avid trips, you can chat to him. And Matt, they've accentuated the versions of themselves, which is just great people.
Absolutely.
And I believe that through so many of the people we've probably both met, that some people that look, they're an arsehole, they've always been an arsehole, no matter how much money they've had. It's not a bad thing, it's just the way they are.
For sure.
And then there's people that are just truthfully amazing as well.
Have you listened to their podcast?
Bits and bobs.
Yeah.
Again, I want my podcast to vary and also be lessons learned. So I typically follow around various different people I listen to. The Modern Wisdom ones at the moment are really getting me. I'm loving those.
Yeah, they're really good. Yeah.
They're fantastic.
Sorry. No, I was just going to say, have you listened to the Diary of a CEO?
Ooh.
Stephen Bartlett.
I don't think so.
Those ones are
they're really good?
Yeah, he's a great host.
Well, that will go on the next list then.
Yeah.
Again, as I say, I think we are in a consumer generation now. We're all learning to take on and feed in as much information as we can. We have the ability to have so much of it so accessible. Not all of it is accurate. Not all of it is, you're listening to a podcast to tell you some great motivational quotes. They're telling you some journeys. They're telling you things that might sound true, but you've got to remember that it's still just a person on the other side of that talking, and we have no idea whether it's real or not. But whatever you take out of it, hey, that's the lesson.
Yes.
Don't be hard on yourself. You don't have to memorize a whole podcast.
No.
You just need one lesson out of it, and that podcast is meaningful.
And then to actually apply it and take action. That's the
100%.
key, obviously, right?
Yeah, exactly. As we talked about, it's that action.
Yeah.
Keep trying stuff.
Yeah.
That discussion on the word success is success in what way? The definition of the word. To bring that back, it's like success can be happiness in your home life. It can be happiness in money. It can be happiness in your friends, your family. I'm an interesting character. I just like trying stuff.
Yes.
I think the world is more exciting than people give it credit for. If you've got a boring day, go do something. Whatever it is, physical, mental.
Totally. Be curious.
It is. It's one of those. Being curious is massive.
I agree.
Not enough people are curious enough about things to a practical point.
We kind of skipped over the bio or the introduction. We've covered bits and pieces of who you are and what you do, but what would be your 60-second elevator if you had to, if you're meeting someone?
Wow.
What do you do, Michael?
What do I do?
Who are you?
It's always an awkward start to the chat, because when you're in property, you can be the most hated person in this country.
Right.
But myself and my business partner Carl, we're full-time property investors.
Yes.
Previously mortgage broker, turned into property investor. We started buying residential properties, moved into blocks of flats, moved into commercial buildings. My job now is basically, as a whole, we try to make sure that we are buying property to create passive income opportunities for ourselves and others. We are partnering with people where we can. Typically, we are pretty independently involved. We try to make sure that us as a team, myself, my business partner, and our one property manager, Ollie, the three of us focus on doing deals within ourselves, but we have a wider network team, which is all the real estate agents and commercial agents, and obviously lawyers, accountants, and everybody that comes through with the properties we do. It's really interesting when you talk about the bio of the elevator pitch. Typically, we don't heavily involve anyone else in our transactions. We're not selling anything to anyone.
Right.
So the majority of my conversation with anyone about what I do is it's typically about, look, I help business owners find spaces for them to grow.
Right.
You know, we're actually there as commercial nowadays, full-time in the commercial space. We are buying commercial buildings and trying to work with our tenant partners to give them the right space for their business to grow and thrive, and hopefully if they need to downsize or upgrade, we're able to actually be with them through that journey too.
Yeah, cool.
You know?
Nice.
And so it's been fortunate, you know, as I say, we started with a couple and we've got a couple more now, and it gives us a nice opportunity to keep moving.
Yeah.
You know?
So you got a few, right?
Few.
Quite a few, yeah.
A few. Well, the few is debatable. Like there is, we've done hundreds, and that's been pretty exciting. But we've always had a key part of our business, which is keeping. So the byproduct of doing hundreds is you keep quite a few of them.
Yeah.
And we are at a point now in our business where the residential, and that's a heavy chat for anyone, resi is coming back around it. We need to sell a few of these things,
right,
because they're just not as profitable as you might hope. Even like we average well over 10%, you know, usually 13-14% return across the board on our resis and into the net on our commercial.
Right.
But what can we do with that when the resis just keep coming up with more issues here and there?
Right.
You know, so someone asked me the other day, you know, if you had to start again, could you start again in this climate? Could you start again today? And it's a really interesting conversation, because my reply is yes, but what you need is the passion that I once had.
Yes.
You know, the passion for resi, if I was going to do resi again right now, would have to be the blind passion we had at the time.
Right.
Because that's all we were doing.
Yeah.
We were searching for houses, we were searching for opportunities, we were making offers. You know, our trade me was just full of properties. Every agent in town knew we were buying.
Yes.
You know, we were finding stuff. We were buying a lot on market.
Right.
But we have entire companies set up to find them off market.
Right.
You know, we were doing all of this in a heavy amount of passion towards that those opportunities. But the truth of it is, I don't have that passion in resi anymore. The passion now in commercial, and
right,
all of a sudden this year, we bought out 7 or 8 buildings this year, and you know, as you talk about, you know, 10 mil, 10 years, it's been 6 months and I spent 10 mil on buildings.
Right.
You know, and that opportunity is that different change, that different mindset on when we talk about what you're setting your goals for. It's understanding that if you aim bigger and bigger, you know, that movement is just going to grow with you.
Yes.
You know, but you do need something specific in there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's an interesting psychological component of that, right? And what you believe you can achieve. You know, like the story and the example of the 4-minute mile comes to mind, right? Prior to whenever it was, 70s, I think, 80s, whenever, that, you know, they didn't think that you could possibly run faster than a 4-minute mile, right? And then it happened. The one guy did it, Kiwi, I think. And then soon after, it was, yeah, man, everyone did it.
Yeah.
Not everyone, but hundreds of people did it.
Yeah.
But because there was that psychological block, you know, it was limiting.
Oh, we are the byproduct of our psychology. You know, if we believe, you know, we can only do this and we can only end here,
yes,
that's as far as we're even going to get.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I think heavily about everyone's personal goals and ideas and that law of positive attraction. You know, what you're actually aiming towards. I'm a bit of an odd creature in that I have dreams and visions, but I don't typically have I'm not, strangely enough, not materialistic. I don't typically want something. I want the ability to have whatever, whenever, with freedom.
Yes.
So it's kind of like a lifestyle idea rather than a specific thing. You know, I always wanted a Lambo, but not really. Like I was kind of like, that would be the car I'd buy, and I can't wait to one day be able to buy one without thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then when Carl said, you know, I really want a Ferrari, and he's specific on it, I was like, oh cool, well I'll get one. You know, it wasn't that kind of idea where I needed something specifically. Like I don't have a wall of things I want to get over time, which some people have, and I love that they have it.
Yes.
But mine is definitely more an energy towards what it would look like. My life would look like I can buy those things, or I could be in Italy in a wins.
Yes.
Actually, yes.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly like me with this $10 million challenge, right? It's more about the process and the mindset of getting there rather than the actual 10 million. Like it's important to me, but it's not the real. Like if, for example, if I was given 10 million tomorrow, that wouldn't make me happy, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not what I'm after. It's the process of getting there, and you know, one of my goals and parts of it is, you know, creating content and being an inspiration for people that, you know, everyone can think bigger, right?
100%.
And you know, that's part of it. That's important to me.
It is. It's good to hear that, because you know, when you do make something specific, you're always going to have haters. You're going to have conversation about the subject, because someone's going to be like, well, 10 mil, what do you need 10 mil for, mate?
Yeah.
You know?
That's a mindset.
And then other people are going to be like, 10 mil, I want to spend that on one car or a yacht or something, or a house.
Yes.
You know, I went over to Sydney while I was on the way back from Europe, and we stopped in Sydney with my auntie, and it really puts things into perspective when she lives in one of the two like quite expensive suburbs. Most expensive suburbs, the expensive ones like right by the water on the side there.
Right.
And she goes, see that house up there just sold to like a tech guy for 110 million. And I was like, dude's buying his house for 110 mil. And I'm out here wondering if I should order that second espresso martini.
Yeah.
I just like, I was
interesting.
Like, it's pretty crazy.
It is crazy.
It's phenomenal levels of money, or it's. I think in the reality of like my own personal journey, I look at it and go, you know, I have so many conversations with people about when you're talking about, oh, you know, my dream car, well, or the dream house. It's like, well, you know, when you actually talk about wealth have so much money, they can do it all. You know, they don't talk about having one dream car.
No,
they have multiple, they have their collection, they have their multiple houses, they have their batch. They're not weighing up whether they should buy a batch.
This or that.
They can just do it when they want to.
Yeah.
You know, I think that is a really cool mindset to be on, or a next level.
Yes.
And funnily enough, talking about Blair Chappell, he said you just don't understand it till you unlock the next level.
Right.
And I really like that term, the gaming kind of term, the unlock the next level, because when you move up a level, everything below it seems so easy, you know, the old Bill Gates way, you know, looking back it was the easiest thing on earth, but if I had to look forward it would have been near on impossible. You know? And it's like, right, to get to where we are today seems, you know, fairly easy, just go out, do these deals, get to where we are. But to unlock the next level, to be at a point where I can spend, you know, 5, 6, 7 million on a yacht, not that that's my thing, but you know, spend that kind of money on yachts, or to be flying business class multiple times a year wherever I want.
Yes.
Whereas every time I fly business now, it's kind of like, okay, well it seems unjustifiable, you know, like when you're spending, you know, if you're taking you and your partner overseas, we just going to Europe just then, it was $30,000 for 2 people to go, and I'm thinking, that seems like a lot of money just to be slightly ahead of premium economy.
Yes.
You know, and that's the justification. But then I'm forever cheap. I'm an accountant by mindset.
Yeah.
I'm constantly thinking about the numbers and growing. You know, for every dollar I look to spend, it's not having it. It's the fact that, it's what I could be doing with it. To me, every dollar goes into one of 3 things: my business, my hobbies, or some sort of side investment.
Yeah, right.
You know? It needs to be, and hobbies I probably mix in with the word life. You know, it can be fashion to the family, time going out with my partner, you know, travel, all that kind of stuff. But then I like a little element of fun investment as well. So I don't really have a lot of mindset money for dumb wastage. I've never been good at that. It's friends that, you know, as you talk about the people around us.
Yeah, I guess intentional spending.
Yeah, intentional spending.
You're saying that's important to you. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. It's funny, everyone's relationship with money, right?
Mm.
And it stems, obviously childhood's a component, your environment's a component, the books you've read, the people you've met, it all weighs into it, right? And the way that you perceive money and how it's a tool or if it's the meaning of it, right?
Yes.
It's quite interesting.
What was your relationship with money from a parental to you point of view?
Yeah, so I grew up, my parents were very much the barefoot investor types. Sorry, not barefoot, millionaire next door types, right? Earned decent money, but not crazy, but, just really, saved, didn't buy new cars, just like very conscientious, But, because my dad grew up in the end of the Second World War, very, very mindful of money. I wouldn't say cheap, but very mindful, didn't like waste. Very particular with spending it, right?
Yeah.
No fancy shit, basically. And so that is absolutely absorbed into my DNA, right? I now have a relationship with money in that I'm very much of the value to cost equation. So I'm very conscious of spending money, and I don't like spending it on things that are shit, basically. I'm intentional.
It's probably because we don't have that ridiculous excess. And that it comes in every week.
Yeah.
Like ours that comes in every week, and probably like yourself, the money that does roll in. Even though we're fortunate, there is a heavy amount of passiveness to ours. It's buildings, it just pays money all the time. The truth is, I feel like there is a better allocation. I don't think I need any of it yet. I want to know that when I call on it, it's there.
Yes.
Not that I need it for the sake of it.
Right.
But that's a mindset, as you talk about with your parents. I think maybe we are trained a little bit by them as well.
Yeah.
There's still that, especially being a little bit older, they're probably, as you talk about 19-year-olds being a lot more excitable by starting businesses. Back then, we might have wanted to, but our ability and our mindset to it was probably still a little bit haughty. Protect, look after ourselves.
Yeah.
Especially on my side being a little bit more opposite. I grew up very poor.
Right.
Benefit. Well, dad mixed between low income jobs and benefit a bit when I was younger as well.
Right.
Sole dad income household.
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed much stuff.
No stuff.
Or anything like that. But we were a very sporty household, so my enjoyment was always anything active anyway. But you have to fight to get out of that mindset. How do you learn? And as we talked about a bit earlier, there's someone, there's something, there's an opportunity, there's a person, there's a moment in each of our lives which changes the mindset course of action, which actually gets you deciding to push through it all, to try.
Yeah, I like that. Man, I could probably talk all day with you. This is a great chat.
I was just thinking that we're going to hold these things up and be here for about 8 hours.
Well, I think, again, I come back to the enjoyment I get out of the podcast. I really love it, like chatting with interesting people and being able to share this with others. It's an incredible pleasure. So,
well, it's been a pleasure to be here. I think you're a really interesting creature as well.
Thank you. Maybe this has inspired you to kick your own off.
Oh, definitely. It's nice feeling at home and free with somebody talking, I suppose, in an open setting, but also knowing that anyone out there that does listen to this will get something recorded that they can take whatever they need from to hopefully help them in any way or shape in their life, because it only takes a small moment to trigger somebody into taking that next step in their happiness and their success.
Absolutely. Wow. What a great way to end.
Oh, thank you, my man.
Thank you, man. See you next time.
See ya.